Javits, there have been a lot of objections raised to Mr. Marshall on the floor today, a good deal about his objectivity or lack of it once he's on the bench. How do you answer all this?
Well, I say that other judges have been anticipated in advance for what they'll stand for when on the bench, and the history as such is to show that just isn't true, and that when a man ascends the Supreme Court bench, it's rather tantamount to becoming President of the United States. He's touched with the office, and he can be a very different man from anything that anybody ever anticipated. Now, it's a great honor, I think, to the Negro people that Thurgood Marshall, a Negro, is the first one appointed to the United States Supreme Court and stands so worthy of confirmation by the Senate as to hold this office. But that great honor is because he is a great lawyer and a great judge, and not because he's a Negro. It's the Negro that follows the precedent of the man. Now, this kind of a man could, like other judges, like Earl Warren, who was a relatively conservative, or at the best moderate governor, Republican governor of California, who becomes a really outstanding leader for civil and human rights when he becomes chief judge, or Judge Brandeis, who was a great reformer in his Boston days and then became a very moderate judge, calling the causes of liberals in some cases against the Constitution, in some cases with it. There's Byron White, who's on the bench now, President John F. Kennedy's appointee, widely hailed to at least thought to be an outstanding liberal. He gets on the bench and he's a conservative. Now, the same thing, and there are many other cases, Judge Goldberg, now in the United Nations. When he was on the bench, it was thought he'd rule everything for the trade unions because he was a trade union lawyer, but he didn't at all. He called them as he saw them. So it will be with Thurgood Marshall. He's a very high-minded man with 300 years of roots in this country. He's very proud to be a Negro, and the Negro should be very proud that he's so outstanding a lawyer, and I predict he'll turn out to be a very objective and a very good judge.
Senator, there's been criticism of the court in the past, and there was criticism of the court on the floor today for being too liberal. Thurgood Marshall is recognized as a liberal. What about the point that this will overbalance the court in that direction?
I don't think so, and I think all that those who are opposing Mr. Marshall are doing is trying to reverse Supreme Court decisions made by the majority, which they don't like. They don't like the decisions with respect to desegregating education, or decisions which invalidate the poll tax, or other decisions which are distasteful to them on states' rights grounds or on civil rights grounds, or the way they read the Constitution. After all, the words of the Constitution are very general. And Supreme Courts, for example, due process of law and equal protection of the laws, and Supreme Courts since the beginning of our history have interpreted those words in the light of the events of our time and the laws of our time. And that's the way it should be. And it's very significant to me that when these questions have come to the Congress, and the Congress has had an opportunity to reverse the court by passing a law different from the court's decision, it's almost invariably not done so, recognizing that the institution of justice is much greater than the individual grievance. So it is with Judge Marshall. He has the fitness and the quality and the character to be a judge. I think he'll be a fair and an objective judge, and I think to try to deny him the judgeship on some anticipated grounds that he won't be fair and he won't be objective is, as I say, just trying to load the situation the other way and get a different Supreme Court decision from what has gone before, which these men don't like.
Senator, do you think hereafter there'll be a Negro seat on the Supreme Court?
Not necessarily. It is popularly thought that that's the way these things are done. I don't necessarily attribute it to that. There are elements of the country which, if they produce the right kind of personality, certainly there's no reason why they shouldn't be represented on the court. And that's the way it is now, but it needn't always be so, and I don't think it gives any vested right whatever.
You think that's necessarily a bad idea?
I think it is a bad idea to appoint from specific categories. I think it's a good idea if you can find the personnel, the right kind of man, to let America be represented across the board.